The battle begins. The dark expanse of space was silent, save for the soft hum of the ships in orbit. Earth's warships had been silently preparing, waiting for this moment, the moment they would prove that humanity was no longer weak. For too long, the galaxy had underestimated Earth. The alien empire, confident in their superiority, had launched wave after wave of attacks, thinking the humans would bow down to their might. But today, Earth was ready to show them just how wrong they were. Captain Jacob Knight stood at the helm of the lead warship, the Vanguard, his hands gripping the controls with a calm, steady resolve. He had seen many battles in his years of service, but this was different. This was the fight to determine Earth's future. The enemy fleet, a massive armada of sleek, dark warships, loomed ahead. They had arrived in Earth's orbit with the full force of their empire, certain that nothing could stand in their way. They were about to find out how wrong they were. Status report. Lieutenant Knight's voice was firm, his gaze fixed on the enemy fleet growing larger on the view screen. The bridge was quiet, the crew focused on their tasks. The tension in the air was thick, but there was no fear, only determination. Enemy fleet is in position, Captain. Their ships are massive, but our fleet is holding steady. We have a strong position in the defense grid. Lieutenant Stevens replied. His hands flew over the control panel as he monitored the situation. Captain Knight nodded, eyes narrowing as he scanned the enemy ships. They were outnumbered, but they weren't going to run. Earth had always been underestimated, its strength hidden beneath layers of peace and diplomacy. But now, that strength was about to be unleashed. We have one chance at this. Do not hesitate. Knight's voice rang out, not just for the crew, but for himself. His hand hovered over the button that would signal the beginning of the assault. The crew nodded, ready for the battle. No one spoke, there was no need for words. Their eyes locked on the view screen, waiting for the right moment. The enemy ships were still a few minutes from firing range, but in this silence, every second felt like an eternity. Then it happened. Captain, enemy fleet is launching drones. Stevens shouted, breaking the silence. A swarm of small, dark ships darted forward from the enemy fleet, heading directly for Earth's defenses. They were fast, dangerous, and designed to overwhelm. The drones would launch waves of attacks, trying to break through the defenses and cripple Earth's warships. Before the main battle began, Knight didn't hesitate. He slammed his hand onto the control panel. Activate all defensive shields and arm all weapons. Fire at will. His voice was sharp, filled with the urgency of the moment. Aye, Captain. The crew responded in unison, their hands moving quickly over the control panels as the shields came up and the weapon systems activated. The ship shuddered as the weapons powered up, their energy swirling into place, ready to strike. On the view screen, the swarm of drones approached rapidly, their sleek forms darting through space like deadly insects. Earth's warships fired the first volley, their laser cannons lighting up the darkness of space. The drones exploded in a shower of sparks and debris, but there were too many of them. The battle had just begun, and the enemy was relentless. Damn. They're overwhelming our outer defenses. Stevens shouted as the drones collided with the shields, sending shockwaves through the warships. We need more firepower. Knight's jaw tightened. They knew the enemy would throw everything at them. It was their first test, their first moment of survival, and Earth's fleet was not backing down. We're not backing down either. Deploy the fighter jets, full assault. Knight ordered, his voice like steel. The fighter jets launched from the hangars, roaring into the void, their weapons blazing. The battle had become a storm of fire and destruction as the drones clashed with Earth's fleet. The massive warships fired their heavy cannons, their shots lighting up the dark expanse of space, while the smaller fighter jets weaved in and out, dodging incoming fire as they launched rapid strikes against the enemy's drone swarm. Through the chaos, Knight's eyes stayed focused on the enemy flagship, a massive, imposing ship in the center of the fleet. If they could take that down, the rest of the fleet would fall. It was their only hope. Focus all fire on the enemy flagship. Target their engines. Knight shouted, his command sharp and direct. The crew worked as one, every member of the bridge moving with precision. The weapons on the Vanguard shifted focus, and a massive blast of energy shot forward, striking the enemy flagship's engines. The ship rocked, sending shockwaves throughout the battlefield, but the enemy wasn't giving up easily. The flagship returned fire, unleashing a wave of destructive energy in retaliation. "Captain, shields at 50%. Stevens reported urgently. "We can't take much more of this." Knight didn't flinch. They had no choice but to keep pushing. "Forward, hold on. Reinforcements are en route. We just have to survive long enough." Knight's voice rang out, the crew rallying around his leadership. The fate of Earth, of humanity, was at stake, and there was no turning back. As the battle raged on, the aliens were beginning to feel the weight of Earth's fury. They had thought humanity was weak, a minor species in the vast galaxy. But as the warships pressed forward, launching strikes and evading deadly enemy fire, it became clear humanity was no longer a joke. The ship shuddered again, but this time the crew held their ground. They had one goal in mind: to turn the tide of this battle and show the universe that Earth was not to be underestimated. The battle had just begun, and the galaxy would never forget the fury of humanity. Asterisk. The tide turns. The battle in space was like nothing humanity had ever experienced. The vast void around them now teemed with destruction ships, drones, and energy blasts streaking across the dark canvas. Earth's warships, previously underestimated by the alien empire, were now showing their true strength. The tide of war was shifting. Captain Jacob Knight stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, his eyes scanning the chaos unfolding on the view screen. Every second counted. The enemy flagship, a massive, imposing vessel at the center of the alien armada, had been wounded, but not enough to stop it. The alien fleet was regrouping, preparing for a counteroffensive, but Knight wasn't worried. Not anymore. He had seen the resolve in his crew's eyes, and in the hearts of every soldier on the battlefield. Earth wasn't going to be beaten, not this time. "Status report, Lieutenant Stevens." Knight's voice cut through the tension. "On the bridge, Captain, the drones are retreating, but we've suffered damage to our outer hull. Shields are holding at 60%, and the fighter jets are clearing out the last of the drone swarms." Stevens' voice was calm, but there was no mistaking the urgency behind his words. "However, the enemy flagship is recharging its main cannon. They'll be firing in less than 2 minutes." Knight's eyes narrowed. The aliens were regrouping, but they didn't know what was coming next. The real battle was only just beginning. "Get the rest of the fleet in position. We're going to hit them with everything we've got," Knight ordered, his voice steady despite the storm raging outside. He turned to the view screen, his jaw clenched with resolve. He had been through countless battles before, but this was different. Earth was fighting not just for survival, but for its place in the galaxy. "Captain, incoming transmission from command." Lieutenant Stevens looked up, holding a signal in his hand. Knight raised an eyebrow. Put it through. The voice that came through was unmistakable. It was Admiral Sarah Monroe, commander of Earth's Central Fleet. Asterisk Captain Knight, this is Admiral Monroe. You've done well holding the line. Her voice was full of authority, but there was a trace of urgency too. But we're running out of time. The alien forces are starting to push back. We need to regroup and prepare for their next wave. The Empire's flagship is about to fire its main cannonith. It hits our fleet, we'll lose our advantage. Do you have a plan? Asterisk, asterisk, Knight gripped the armrest of his chair, his mind racing. He couldn't let Earth's hope slip through his fingers now. One chance, one shot. He had to make it count. I have an idea, Admiral. Knight's voice was firm. Prepare the fleet for a coordinated strike. I'll lead the charge. Tell the rest of the ships to follow my lead. We'll draw their fire, and you hit them with everything we've got. This is it. We're going for the flagship. There was a brief pause on the line before Admiral Monroe's voice came through again, stronger than before. Understood, Captain. Good luck out there. Earth's future depends on you. Knight turned to his crew, the weight of the mission settling over him. This wasn't just about defeating the alien fleet. It was about proving that humanity could not be ignored. They had spent years living in the shadow of more powerful forces, but that would change today. Stevens, prep the warheads. Get the rest of the fleet into position. We'll take them by surprise. Knight said, his eyes locking onto the view screen. This ends now. The battle intensifies. The next few minutes felt like hours. Earth's warships moved into formation, their engines glowing as they aligned themselves for the next phase of the battle. The alien fleet, once so sure of itself, now seemed hesitant. Their flagship, massive and intimidating, began charging its cannon, the hum of its energy field filling the void of space. It was clear the aliens were ready to destroy humanity's last line of defense, but the humans weren't going to give up so easily. Alex, a young pilot in the Earth fleet, sat in his fighter cockpit, staring at the enemy fleet through the targeting system. His hands gripped the controls, but his mind was focused on something much more personal. He wasn't just fighting for Earth, he was fighting for his family. His younger sister was on board one of the warships, and he knew that every decision he made could mean life or death for them both. This is it. Alex muttered to himself, his heart pounding. He couldn't afford to hesitate. He was about to engage in one of the most dangerous parts of the mission, drawing the fire from the alien fleet. His job was to keep the aliens distracted long enough for Earth's fleet to make the final strike. It would be a risky maneuver, but he had no choice. If he didn't do this, the alien flagship would tear their ships apart. The command came through as comes. All units, launch in 5 seconds. With a deep breath, Alex hit the thrusters. His fighter shot forward, speeding toward the enemy flagship at full speed, weaving in and out of the enemy fire. As he neared the flagship, he glanced at his radar. His fleet was following behind. Closing in, the flagship fired its main cannon just as Alex flew underneath it, narrowly dodging the deadly beam of energy. The massive blast streaked past, missing him by inches, but hitting one of the supporting ships in Earth's fleet. The explosion rocked Alex's ship, but he didn't falter. This was part of the plan. Come on, Alex muttered under his breath, dodging another wave of enemy fire. He had one shot, one opportunity to lead the alien fleet away long enough for the humans to strike. His comms crackled with a voice from the warship. Alex, pull back now. We're about to launch our final assault. I'm almost there. Just one more pass. Alex yelled into the comms, weaving through the alien ship's defenses. The alien fleet was now distracted, focusing on him as Earth's warships closed in on the flagship's vulnerable side. Then the final moment came. Now. Captain Knight's voice boomed through Alex's comm system. Alex pulled his ship into a sharp turn, narrowly avoiding an incoming blast. As he watched Earth's warships unleash their full firepower on the alien flagship, the explosion was immense. The battleship's flagship's massive frame shook as it absorbed the first wave of human firepower. Its shields began to flicker, and then the alien ship shuddered. Its defenses breached for the first time. Humanity's fleet was making its final stand, and the Empire was losing its grip. But just as the flagship began to fall, the alien fleet retaliated with all its fury. The final moments of the battle were fast approaching, and Alex knew that the last push was coming. The question remained, would Earth be able to finish what it had started, or would the alien empire crush them all with one final blow? The tension in space was palpable. Everything depended on this final strike. The final assault. The atmosphere in the command center was thick with anticipation. Across the vastness of space, the echoes of battle reverberated. Earth's fleet had struck the alien empire's flagship hard, but the war was far from over. The alien forces had begun to retaliate, and their resolve was just as strong as humanity's. The battle was now entering its most critical phase. Captain Jacob Knight stood at the helm of the Vanguard, staring at the view screen. His fingers danced over the control panel, sending orders to his crew. The flagship was damaged, but not destroyed. The alien fleet was regaining strength, and the humans had no time to waste. If they didn't finish what they had started, Earth's last chance would be gone. Status update, Lieutenant Stevens. Knight's voice cut through the tension on the bridge, his tone steady yet urgent. Captain, we've breached the flagship's shields, but their weapons are powering back up. They're targeting our weaker ships. We've lost 3 support vessels, and the remaining drones are swarming our positions. We need to finish this, or they'll overwhelm us. Stephen's voice trembled with the weight of their situation. Knight's jaw tightened, his gaze never leaving the view screen. The time for hesitation had passed. All units, prepare for the final strike. Knight ordered, his voice commanding. We'll hit them hard, no second chances. Initiate the warp drive, and we'll strike the flagship from the blind spot. The crew scrambled to carry out their orders. The warships began to shift positions, their sleek bodies moving through the chaos with newfound determination. The alien fleet, momentarily distracted by their initial loss, was too late to react. The final assault had begun. The final gambit. Alex's heart raced as he piloted his fighter jet, weaving in and out of incoming fire. The alien ships were relentless, firing beam after beam of destructive energy. His comms crackled with the sound of a desperate voice. Alex, we need you to create a diversion. Get those ships off our tail. It was Lieutenant Hart, the lead pilot of Earth's fighter squadron. The situation was critical. Alex's team was surrounded, and they were out of options. Alex's eyes locked onto the battlefield. The alien ships were closing in, and Earth's remaining fleet was on the verge of being overwhelmed. He had no choice. The enemy fleet had one vulnerability: its blind spot, the area just behind their flagship. If he could create enough chaos, he might just give Earth's warships the opening they needed to strike decisively. Understood, Lieutenant, Alex said, his voice cold with determination. "Let's light them up." He pushed the throttle of his fighter to maximum speed, his ship darting through the swarm of enemy ships like a needle through fabric. His squadron followed suit, splitting into two groups to cover Alex's movements. The enemy responded quickly, opening fire with every weapon in their arsenal. But Alex was faster. He dove beneath one alien ship, sending it into a spiral as he blasted its engines. The explosion sent shockwaves through the battlefield, causing nearby alien ships to hesitate for a moment. "Nice shot, Alex." Lieutenant Hart's voice came through, full of adrenaline. "Let's keep them distracted." The battle raged on. Humanity's warships launched wave after wave of strikes against the alien fleet. The plan was risky. Alex's squadron was tasked with keeping the alien ships off balance, giving their warships the chance to strike the flagship's weak spot. Every move counted. The clock was ticking, and Earth was counting on them. Just as the alien fleet began to falter, a new enemy ship emerged from the darkness. It wasn't another alien vessel. This one was larger, more advanced, and unlike anything Earth had seen before. It moved with unnatural precision, its dark form gliding through the wreckage of the battle. The flagship had been forced to deploy its secret weapon. "Captain, we've got a new ship on the radar," Stevens yelled, his voice tinged with disbelief. "It's enormous and appears to be equipped with advanced weaponry we haven't encountered yet." Knight's heart sank. This was not part of the plan. The new ship, twice the size of their largest warships, appeared to be powered by an entirely different energy source. The galaxy's mightiest empire had just revealed its last secret weapon. "What do we do now, Captain?" Stevens asked, his voice full of uncertainty. Knight took a deep breath, his mind racing. They had to end this now while they still had a chance. "We adapt," Knight said firmly. "All ships, focus fire on that new ship. We've come this far, and we're not backing down." The final push began. Humanity's fleet, battered and bruised, made its move. But the alien weapon was far stronger than anything they had faced so far. Earth's warships began to break apart under the enemy's fire, their shields falling one by one. The enemy's new ship unleashed a devastating barrage, knocking out several key human vessels. But Knight wasn't done yet. "Prepare the final charge, now," Knight shouted. "We'll take down the flagship, or we'll go down fighting." The remaining warships aligned, and the final wave of firepower surged forward. Alex's fighter squadron, now down to only half its original strength, swarmed around the massive alien ship, distracting it long enough for the humans to close the distance. The climax of the battles, the alien flagship continued to retaliate. Earth's final strike came through. Knight led the charge, his heart pounding as the final sequence was launched. The entire fleet had one last chance to strike a decisive blow, and they were giving everything to make it happen. Alex and his squadron soared through the enemy defenses, pushing through fire and chaos. The enemy flagship was just ahead, its shields faltering under the constant pressure from Earth's fleet. In a final, desperate move, Earth's warships aimed at the heart of the flagship, their weapons glowing brighter than ever. This was their last shot. The sky exploded in a blinding flash of light. The battle's aftermath, the dust of battle slowly settled as the remnants of the alien fleet began to retreat. The flagship lay in ruins, its once imposing form shattered and burning in the emptiness of space. The galaxy would never forget the moment when human fury turned the tide of war. The fight was over, but the war was far from finished. Earth had sent a message loud and clear that humanity would not be underestimated. The universe had witnessed their strength, and it would remember as the final pieces of debris floated. In space, Captain Knight stood on the bridge, watching the remnants of the battle unfold before him. Humanity had won, but at what cost? The journey ahead would be long, but for now, Earth had proven its place in the galaxy. The wrath of the Empire, the battle had been fierce, but the aftermath was even more intense. Earth's fleet, though battered and bruised, had managed to deal a massive blow to the alien empire. The once unstoppable flagship lay in ruins, the glowing remnants of its systems flickering weakly in space. The enemy fleet was in disarray, retreating faster than anyone had anticipated. Captain Jacob Knight stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, staring out into the vast emptiness of space. The silence after the battle was almost deafening. The hum of the ship's systems seemed louder now, and the crew moved more cautiously, aware of the gravity of their situation. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. "Captain, we've received a transmission from command." Lieutenant Stevens' voice broke the silence. "It's Admiral Monroe." Knight turned to face the communications officer. He knew what the Admiral was about to say. They had won, yes, but they hadn't destroyed the alien empire. Not yet. Put it through. Knight's voice was steady but tinged with exhaustion. The screen flickered to life, and Admiral Monroe's stern face appeared. "Captain Knight, I won't sugarcoat it. We've won the battle, but we've just poked the hornet's nest. The Empire won't let this slide. They'll regroup, and they'll come back with everything they've got." Knight nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He had expected this. The alien empire was not one to back down after losing a battle. This victory, as hard as it had been won, would only make the empire more determined to crush humanity. "What's our next move?" "Admiral," Knight asked, his voice unwavering. He needed a plan. The humans couldn't afford to rest on their laurels. "We hold our position for now. Reinforcements are en route, but it'll take time to get them here." Monroe's eyes were sharp, calculating. "In the meantime, we're getting reports of alien fleets rallying at the edge of the galaxy. They're not just angry, they're desperate. Expect a counterattack sooner than we thought." Knight's mind raced. They had done what no one thought possible. They had shown the universe that humanity could fight back. But at what cost? The Empire had never faced such fierce resistance, and now they would stop at nothing to erase that threat. "Understood, Admiral. We'll prepare for the worst." Knight turned to Stevens. "Get me the fleet commanders. We need to discuss our defensive strategy." As Stevens nodded and moved to relay the orders, Knight's mind wandered back to the battle. The sight of the alien flagship, once invincible, now in ruins, had been a moment of victory. But in the back of his mind, something gnawed at him. The alien empire was large, its reach vast, and they were not going to let this insult go unpunished. "Captain." Incoming transmission from an unknown source. Stevens' voice interrupted his thoughts. "It's a private channel, but it's heavily encrypted." Knight's brow furrowed. "Put it through." The screen flickered again, and this time a face appeared, a face Knight did not expect to see. It was an alien, but not one like the others. This one looked older, more regal, with sharp, intelligent eyes that seemed to pierce through the screen. It was the leader of the alien empire, Captain Jacob Knight, I presume. The alien's voice was smooth, but its tone was chilling. "You have caused significant damage to our forces. You think you have won, but in reality, You have only awakened something far greater than you understand. Knight's pulse quickened. This was the moment he had been preparing for, the direct confrontation with the Empire's leadership. "Who are you?" Knight demanded, his voice steady but full of resolve. "What do you want?" The alien's lips curled into a thin smile. "I am the Emperor of the Galactic Dominion. You humans are a threat, one that we will eliminate. You may have won a battle, but you are no match for the power of the Empire. We will crush you, and the galaxy will see humanity as nothing more than an afterthought." Knight's grip tightened around the armrest of his chair. The enemy, Emperor, had made one fatal mistake. He had underestimated humanity. He didn't realize that the more the Empire tried to crush them, the more fiercely humanity would fight back. "We'll see about that," Knight said, his voice calm but resolute. "We've only just begun." The alien Emperor's smile faltered. "We'll see, Captain. But remember this moment. You will regret it." Before Knight could respond, the screen went black. The transmission cut off. The silence that followed was deafening. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The Emperor's words hung in the air. Humanity had crossed a line that could never be undone. "Captain, we've confirmed a new enemy fleet at the edge of our system." Stephen's voice was tense. "It's bigger than we anticipated. They're coming for us fast." Knight's jaw tightened as he stared at the view screen. The Empire wasn't going to give up so easily, but this time humanity would be ready. They would fight for their survival, and this time they would show the galaxy that Earth was not a species to be forgotten. "All units, prepare for battle. We will hold this line. Humanity will not be wiped out, and we will make the Empire regret ever underestimating us." The tension in the air was palpable as the crew went to work, their movements quick and coordinated. Earth's fleet was battered, but they were not broken. Humanity had fought back once, and now they were preparing to do it again. The countdown began. The alien fleet was almost upon them. "Let's make sure the galaxy remembers this moment." Knight muttered under his breath, his eyes fixed on the horizon. The battle was far from over, and humanity's fury had only just begun. The enemy strikes back. The hum of Earth's warships filled the bridge, but the tension in the air was nearly unbearable. Every crew member was on edge, eyes flicking between their control panels and the battle-ready screen in front of them. Captain Jacob Knight stood, his jaw clenched, staring out into the vastness of space. The alien fleet had already started their approach, but this time they had more firepower. The Empire wasn't just coming for Earth, they were coming for revenge. "All ships report in, now." Knight's voice was steady, but beneath the calm, the storm was brewing. "Let's be clear, this isn't a skirmish anymore. It's the end of the beginning." The communications officer, Lieutenant Stevens, looked up from his terminal. "Captain, we've got multiple ships closing in fast. We're detecting at least 3 flagships in the enemy formation, each one larger than the last. They mean business." Knight's fingers tightened around the console. "They think they can crush us with numbers and firepower." He turned to face the bridge crew. "They're wrong. We'll make them regret ever underestimating humanity." A series of explosions rocked the fleet's perimeter as small alien ships, faster than anticipated, pierced the defensive lines. It was only a matter of time before the alien flagship engaged. Their plans to retreat had been shattered, and now the countdown to their most devastating encounter had begun. "The unseen force, Captain Fluin, incoming transmission from command." Stevens interrupted, his face suddenly pale. "It's a direct order from Admiral Monroshi, says to pull back." They want us to fall back to Earth's atmosphere to regroup. Knight's eyes narrowed. We don't retreat. He turned, looking every member of the crew in the eye. This is our home. If we run now, we'll never be able to fight back again. A murmur of agreement spread through the room. The stakes were higher than ever, but there was no turning back. Earth had held its ground once, before they could do it again. However, even as they prepared for battle, something unexpected happened. A new fleet appeared out of nowhere. It wasn't the alien armada they had been expecting. It was something else entirely. A series of colossal, sleek ships, their designs unlike anything the Empire had used before, appeared from the depths of space. They weren't allies of Earth, but rather an unexpected third party, the unknown fleet. Their sudden arrival shifted the tide of battle, as they immediately launched a flurry of energy blasts that tore into the alien ships. "Who are they?" Lieutenant Stevens asked, his voice a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Knight's fingers gripped the edge of his chair as he watched the chaos unfold on the view screen. The unknown fleet was tearing through the alien fleet, their precision unmatched. Were they here to aid Earth, or were they simply pursuing their own agenda? There was no time for answers, now only action. "We'll fight alongside them for now," Knight ordered, his voice calm but firm. "We don't know who they are, but if they're fighting the Empire, we can use all the help we can get." The shifting alliances, the battle raged on. Human warships, now bolstered by the unknown fleet, fought side by side. The unexpected alliance, fragile as it was, seemed to be turning the tide. However, as the battle wore on, Knight couldn't shake. The feeling that the enemy's desperation was pushing them to take more dangerous actions. "Captain, we've received another transmission." Stephen's voice cracked through the air again. "The enemy's flagship is charging its main weapon. They're preparing a planetary-scale attack." Knight's eyes snapped to the view screen as the alien flagship's energy core began to glow with a fierce, deadly light. A planetary weapon. "They'll destroy the entire system if they fire that thing," Stevens muttered. The crew watched in silence, but Knight's thoughts were racing. There had to be a way to stop them before they fired that weapon. The humans had already taken too much. They wouldn't allow this attack to succeed. "Prepare all ships for the final assault," Knight shouted. "We have one chance to stop that weapon from firing. If we don't take it down now, it's all over." The last push, the battle reached a fever pitch. Earth's warships, alongside the mysterious unknown fleet, formed a tight formation and charged straight for the alien flagship. The closer they got, the more they could feel the weight of the alien weapon's power. The very air seemed to crackle with energy, and every instinct told them to turn back, stay focused. Knight barked as the bridge trembled from the intensity of the weapon's charge. "If we can disable their cannon, we can take down the flagship. Don't let them fire." The unknown fleet's ships darted through the chaos, their weapons creating a dazzling display of energy, but the alien fleet wasn't giving up. Their shields absorbed blast after blast, but the aliens were desperate, trying to shield their flagship with every last bit of energy. "Full speed ahead. Fire at will," Knight ordered, his voice rising above the roar of explosions. The ship's forward cannons unleashed their full might, targeting the core of the enemy flagship. Energy blasts tore through space, and for a brief moment, the alien flagship's shields flickered. This was it. Their moment. With one final charge, the Vanguard launched a full strike against the alien flagship, sending everything they had left into the heart of the enemy ship. The energy beams hit their mark. The alien flagship trembled under the intensity of the attack. Its defenses shattered, and then an explosion. The flagship erupted in a burst of light, debris scattering across the battlefield. The alien fleet faltered, their command ship destroyed, but the victory came at a cost. Earth's fleet was exhausted, its ships battered from the relentless battle. "We did it, Captain," Stevens said, his voice full of awe. But Knight didn't celebrate. This battle might be won, but the war was far from over. The unknown fleet had helped them, but what did it mean for humanity's future? Who were they, and why had they chosen to help Earth now? "Don't relax yet," Knight said grimly, his eyes still locked on the view screen. "There's much more to this than we can see, and we need to prepare for whatever comes next." The aftermath with the alien flagship destroyed, the enemy fleet retreated, its forces broken and disorganized. But the cost of victory was evident. Warships were in disrepair, and the unknown fleet was an enigma, leaving just as suddenly as it had appeared. As Knight stood at the command center, his mind raced with questions. The battle had been a victory, but humanity's future was still uncertain. The galaxy had witnessed Earth's fury, and now there were forces beyond the Empire's might that humanity had yet to fully understand. The war was far from over. The mysterious force the alien flagship's destruction had sent ripples through the battlefield, and the once victorious alien fleet began to retreat in disarray. Yet, in the aftermath of the explosion, a strange sense of unease settled over Captain Jacob Knight. Their victory had been hard-earned, but now a new layer of mystery loomed overhead. The unknown fleet had come to their aid, but with their retreating departure, Earth was left with more questions than answers. Who were they? Why had they appeared when they did? And more pressing, why hadn't they stayed to help finish the job? As the alien ships scattered into the dark expanse of space, Knight ordered a tactical retreat for Earth's fleet. The warships, though battered, needed to regroup. But even as they retreated, something in the distance caught his eye, an unnatural ripple in space. Unlike any natural phenomenon he'd seen before, it was as if reality itself was bending. "Captain, are you seeing this?" Stevens asked, his voice filled with confusion and concern. "What in the hell is that?" Knight murmured, narrowing his eyes. The phenomenon grew larger, warping the very fabric of space around it. The energy emanating from it was unlike anything they had encountered. Earth's ships held their positions, unsure whether to advance or retreat. There was no official recognition of what they were witnessing, and every instinct told Knight to be cautious. "All ships, hold your positions. No one moves until we know what this is," Knight ordered sharply. It was at that moment that the phenomenon began to stabilize into a strange, glowing vortex, massive tear in space, unlike anything seen before. It didn't just warp the space around it. It seemed to suck at the very energy of the ships nearby. The air grew dense with the static charge of the anomaly, and for a brief moment it felt like the universe itself held its breath. Then, as quickly as it had formed, the ripples in space disappeared, and a new fleet of ships emerged. But these weren't alien ships, nor were they anything like the unknown fleet. These ships were unlike any design Earth had ever encountered. They were sleek, ethereal, alive. The ships didn't look mechanical. They looked like they were made from energy itself, pulsing with a glow that resonated through the very fabric of space. At their center was a ship that dwarfed everything in the galaxy, a behemoth, unlike anything the universe had ever seen. "What are those? Stevens asked in a whisper, his eyes wide. Knight's throat went dry as he stared at the impossible sight. This wasn't just another fleet. This wasn't just another attack. Whatever these ships were, they were beyond anything Earth had ever faced. The arrival of the unknown force. Captain Knight, this is Admiral Monroe. We're tracking those ships now. Monroe's voice crackled over the comms, pulling Knight back to reality. Admiral, we need more intel. What do we know about them? Knight responded, his voice a mix of curiosity and wariness. We don't know much yet. They appeared out of nowhere, no prior signals, no warning. They're not on any galactic registry, but they're not hostile either. Knight was silent for a moment, unsure how to respond. If they weren't hostile, then what were they? And why had they arrived just after the battle? Were they here to help, or were they just as dangerous as the Empire? As the massive ships began to position themselves around Earth's warships, a strange transmission came through on the comms. This one direct and unmistakably intelligent. Humanity, hear us. The voice was deep, resonant, and carried an authority that made the hair on the back of Knight's neck stand up. It wasn't just a communication, it was a command. We are the Gaiath, the Watchers of the Void. Your actions have not gone unnoticed. Your species has proven its strength. But now, the real challenge begins. Knight's mind raced. Gaiath, who were they? Why were they speaking to Earth? What do you want from us? Knight's voice was steady, but inside, his thoughts were a storm of uncertainty. Was this another power trying to manipulate humanity, or were they an ally? We do not seek to control you, the voice answered as though reading his thoughts, but you have now drawn the attention of forces far beyond your understanding. The galaxy is not what you believe it to be. You have awakened something ancient, and it cannot be ignored. Knight's stomach tightened. Awakened something. What did that mean? Were these Gaiath responsible for the alien empire's aggression? Or had they simply been watching Earth's every move? The unknown force was massive, and its ships, shimmering with energy, were a visual reminder of the hidden power in the galaxy. What do you mean? What forces? Knight asked, his voice demanding answers. The Gaiath responded almost immediately, but their tone had shifted, now a mix of warning and something darker. The darkness of the universe stirs, and now you must choose. Will you stand united as you did today, or will you be swept away by the storm? The decision. The Gaiath didn't elaborate further, but Knight's heart sank. This wasn't just another battle. There was something far greater at play here, something far more dangerous than the alien empire they had just fought. The galaxy, it seemed, had just revealed its true complexity, and humanity's place within it was still uncertain. Captain, there's a new transmission from command. Stevens interrupted the silence. Knight looked up, nodding grimly. Put it through. Admiral Monroe's voice came through, more urgent than before. Knight, we've received a message from the Galactic Council. They're warning us about the Gaiath and other ancient powers in the galaxy. They're not what they seem. What do you mean, Admiral? Knight asked, trying to piece together what he had just heard. We don't know yet, but their appearance now, so soon after the battle with the Empire. It's no coincidence. They have been watching humanity for a long time. Knight's mind was spinning. The Gaiath weren't allies. They weren't enemies. They were something else entirely. And they were preparing humanity for something far greater than the war with the alien empire. The voice of the Gaiath echoed, again cutting through the comms. Prepare yourselves, humanity. The void is waiting. And then, just as quickly as they had appeared, the Gaiath ships began to fade back into the void, leaving Earth's fleet floating in a sea of uncertainty. The unraveling of the cosmos, the vastness of space had never felt so ominous. The Gaiath had left without further explanation, but their cryptic warning echoed in the minds of Earth's commanders. Prepare yourselves, humanity. The void is waiting. Their words lingered in the air, as if the very fabric of the universe had shifted. Earth's fleet was left standing on the precipice of something far greater than they had ever imagined. Captain Jacob Knight stood at the helm of the Vanguard, staring out into the expanse of space. The alien fleet had been defeated, but the cost was high. Several of Earth's warships had been destroyed, and many lives had been lost. The unknown fleet, whose motives remained a mystery, had disappeared as quickly as they had arrived. And now, the true test lay before them. Captain, we're receiving another transmission. Stephen's voice broke the silence on the bridge. Knight's brow furrowed. Another transmission. From who this time? He had a feeling it wasn't going to be good news. Put it through, Stevens. His voice was steady, but inside, he was preparing himself for whatever came next. The screen flickered to life. And this time, it wasn't Admiral Monroe or the alien empire. The figure on the screen was humanoid, but its features were completely unfamiliar. It had the same regal presence as the Gaiath, but this figure was different. Its skin was a translucent silver, and its eyes glowed faintly with a light that seemed to come from within. It was unlike anything Alex or any of the crew had ever seen. Humanity. The figure's voice was calm and ancient, as if it carried the weight of centuries. You have survived your first test, but you are not yet prepared for what lies ahead. The forces you are about to encounter are beyond your comprehension. The crew remained silent, the weight of the figure's words hanging in the air. Beyond their comprehension. What did that mean? Knight's grip tightened on the console, his gaze never leaving the screen. Who are you? And why are you contacting us? The figure tilted its head, a slight smile appearing on its face, though it lacked warmth. We are the Seraphim, the keepers of the galaxy's balance. We have watched humanity with interest. You have proven your strength, but you are still children in the eyes of the cosmos. Balance. Knight's voice was sharp, his patience beginning to wear thin. You say you've watched us. Why didn't you help during the battle? Why? Now the Seraphim's eyes flickered with an emotion that could only be described as pity. We did not intervene because you were meant to prove yourselves. The events you have experienced were orchestrated by forces beyond even our control. The Empire, the Gaiath, and now us, they are all pieces in a game that spans across the universe. A game you are now part of. Knight's mind raced. The Empire, the Gaiath, the Seraphim, what did it all mean? The battles with the alien empire had felt personal, but now it seemed like they were part of something far bigger than they could have ever imagined. He had no answers, only more questions. What do you want from us? Knight asked, his voice steady but filled with urgency. Why are we part of this game? What's at stake? The Seraphim's gaze grew more intense, its voice carrying a weight that made every word feel like it was carved into stone. The fate of the universe is in flux, Captain Knight. The Empire, the Gaiath, the unknown fleet, they are all pieces of a much larger conflict. There are forces in the void, ancient and powerful, that seek to unmake everything. To stop them, you will need allies, knowledge, and the courage to face what is beyond even your understanding. Humanity is the key. The words hung in the air, heavy with their implications. Humanity was the key. To what? To saving the galaxy, or to being wiped out entirely? But why us? Stevens finally spoke up, his voice shaking. Why is humanity so important? What makes us the key to all of this? The Seraphim's gaze softened slightly, though there was still an aura of mystery surrounding it. You humans possess something no other species has, an unyielding spirit. You fight not just to survive, but to thrive. In the coming darkness, that will be your greatest weapon. But you must understand, the path ahead is fraught with peril. The void, the source of all creation and destruction, is awakening. To stop it, you must face the true enemy, and you will not be alone. Who is this enemy? Night pressed, his mind on edge. He needed answers, and he needed them fast. The Seraphim's form shimmered, almost as if it were made of light, its eyes glowing with an ancient wisdom. They are known by many names, but you will soon come to know them as the Wraiths. They are the oldest and most dangerous of all beings. They do not seek to conquer, they seek to consume, to erase all existence. And they have begun to stir. Night's heart sank. The Wraiths, something ancient, something so terrifying that it could erase everything humanity had fought for. What must we do? Night asked, his voice firm with resolve. The Seraphim nodded slightly. You will need to gather the fragments of the Void Key, the only weapon capable of sealing the Wraiths away. But beware, many will seek to stop you. The galaxy is full of threats, and the Wraiths will not allow their plans to be undone easily. You must move quickly, or it will be too late. The transmission ended abruptly, the Seraphim's figure fading into the darkness. The crew stood in stunned silence, absorbing the weight of their new reality. Night turned to his crew, his eyes blazing with the fire of determination. We now know what's at stake. The Wraiths are coming, and we're the only ones who can stop them. Prepare yourselves. This battle will be like none we've faced before.